welcome to the video podcast of Silicon and Spice, where tech leaders share life's flavors. Today, we have Zalak here, who is the product leader at Sigma Computing. And you guys are a Series D company, so it's very impressive. Sigma Computing is a business intelligence platform. And previously, Zalak has been working at a lot of B2B companies like Acquire, Boomtown, etc. So I'm pretty curious. So the first question I usually ask my guests is, what is your path into product management?
That's a great question. I would kind of take you back to my childhood.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, my dad was an entrepreneur, and we had our own clothing factory.
Okay.
Stitch Fix.
Yes, yes.
Like every summer, I would go into our factory, and I would see him kind of work into thinking about what product he needs to build. Is it going to be a T-shirt? It's seasonal things, and kind of watching him convert customer demands or market demands into a real product. Didn't know it was product management at that point. Kind of watching him solve really a problem that he was presented and actually creating a product that he was able to sell and make a lot of money out of. I think it was very interesting kind of mix of things, right? So when I kind of fast forward at Oracle, which was my first job, I joined Oracle as a senior consultant. But I ended up doing a lot of what traditional product management was. I was back in India, so I interfaced a lot with our customers who were based in the United States. They were lending and leasing banks and companies. And a lot of part of my senior consultant role was actually understanding what these banks wanted. Because a lot of times, policies change, so you need to go and update the product that is being deployed. So again, I ended up doing a lot of product management type of things without knowing it was truly product management. Majority of time was me interfacing with a lot of customers, understanding their problems, bringing it to our team, writing them down, and then I was also developing them. So I was doing the entire end-to-end of an SDLC per se.
Yeah.
My manager saw that at that point, that I was really good at the first part of it. And he's like, I want you to just focus on interfacing with customers, and understanding their problem, and then actually helping us build the right product. Because he said my skills were more focused on that. That gave me an idea. Maybe this is a specific domain I want to get into. So then at that point, I decided to come to United States and get my MBA from UC Davis. And as part of my MBA program, I learned a lot of things that were kind of missing from my skill set, more business-focused things. I already had a technical background coming from engineering, working as a developer. So I kind of explored the business side of things and really got into understanding of okay, what does really product management mean?
Yeah.
And my internship that I did at my MBA kind of solidified my belief that this is what I want to do, right? I really like looking at complex problems. I really want to understand where they're coming from and then actually create a solution that helps the end user kind of feel happy and bring them joy. So my first job out of my MBA, I joined Boomtown, which is now Ovation, as their first PM. And yeah, it's been kind of great coming into the product role initially as a person who did not know a lot about product management, kind of growing into a leader kind of at Sigma.
Yeah, definitely. So something interesting is that we have similar paths. I also started as a consultant, software consultant at Accenture. And then I also did some product management stuff before I know, this is something I really want to commit to. But I didn't choose the MBA path. So I decided to stay as a PM. And then I have been doing just B2C for the last 10 years. Which kind of brought me to the second question. So you have a lot of domain skills in this B2B world, right? So Acquire to Boomtown, that is from customer engagement platform to now business intelligence. And I am curious, is your B2B path intentional? Or is that something you kind of stumbled upon it and realized, this is what I want to commit to, that I want to be a more enterprise-focused product management leader?
Yeah, I was exposed to enterprises early in my career, luckily at Oracle Financial Services, where I worked with banks. So although I wouldn't call it intentional, but I had experience that was my first job out of my undergrad. So I had experience working with large enterprises and large organizations. And I saw the value that a given product can drive for a company if built right. So I wouldn't say my path was intentional, but I really like the type of problems that these B2B companies were solving for other customers, right? So I think one of the things that we started kind of Boomtown, or the CEO of the Boomtown kind of started with, was a very unique problem that he had faced in his previous roles or previous companies that he started, where if you go to a restaurant or a retailer, and if they are not able to accept your payment, then their business stops.
Right,
So
yeah.
how can I help these businesses get up and running really fast? Right? So that was the idea that they had. And that seemed like very empowering vision to build towards. So that was the first true product management role I had. I would say a little bit of finance experience, like fintech experience at Oracle Finance, helped me kind of get into the role and get started. But I think I really kind of fell in love of like solving really complex organizational problems through like SaaS products.
Yeah.
So it's different from B2B just because it's a little bit more tactful and intentional when you build things, when you release things, versus B2C, you can release a lot more things because you have hundreds of thousands of users.
That is true, yeah.
Versus on the B2B side, you have to be very tactful and be intentional about what you build and what you work towards. I think you asked about some of the like domain skills.
Domain skills, yes.
I think the first thing, again, that's very important as like for any product management role is customer empathy, right? If you can put yourself in the shoes of your end users, and it's probably much easier on the B2C side, but again, I have chosen to work on products that I have experienced myself. Anybody has been on the other side of any support chat, right? And then as I was building those products, I was exposed to the world of analytics because as a product manager, you're constantly interfacing with data.
That is true.
That's where kind of Sigma fit in really well because I was struggling with the whole concept of relying on other people to provide me the insights that I needed. And when Sigma actually tried to sell Sigma to me in my previous role, and I did a trial with Sigma, and I was like, wow, like this is Excel on steroids. I can do all these things that I was relying on other folks myself.
Yeah.
This is a great product. I want to be part of it. I want to take this to the next level. And I think that's how I came to Sigma, but like having that empathy, being on the other side is really important because you've seen the problem and now you're able to see, okay, how am I going to solve this problem in the most effective way? Stakeholder management becomes really important because again, you're not dealing with hundreds of thousands of users. You're working with very specific people, personas based on the product that you're choosing to build. And a lot of times when you build products for B2B, it's not just the person you're selling to. It's going to be the procurement team, the security team, the compliance team, and you have to make sure that you have the right things for the right set of users that's going to consume or vet your product.
Yeah.
So that stakeholder management becomes really important. You need to have your stories around what does your product do from a security standpoint, like from a Sigma standpoint, like, okay, authentication, security, compliance, availability, all these things become important as you go beyond just your first persona that you're selling to. And then lastly, it's scale, right?
Scale, yeah.
When you sell to a business, you end up becoming a platform on which their product eventually gets built to.
True,
You become core part of their day-to-day. Again, if your product's good, like Sigma. You become a core part of their day-to-day. And scale is very important. And scale comes in different types, in different forms, really. The scale could be the organizational scale. Like you might be selling to like really large banks and they have hundreds of thousands of users. Scale could be in the context of how many customers your customers have.
Right. Your customer's customer. That could be like hundreds or millions of people.
Exactly, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Would account for both of that.
Yeah.
And depending on how you're distributing Sigma as a product in this scenario, like you need to account for both of those levels of scale.
So to summarize, the first one is sort of the customer empathy. The second one is stakeholder management. Especially, you have to consider like security, like permissioning, all kinds of layers. When you have like enterprise organizational complexity. The last one is scale, right? So how do you scale to your enterprise customers, but also the end users?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, yes, you are selling to a business, but it's really B2B2C.
Yes.
So you have to not only consider your customers, but their customers in anything that you build and grow into your product. Again, going back to the point where you have to be intentional on what you build and how you build it.
Right.
Because your audience is not just the next person that you are working with. It's much larger than that.
Yeah, kind of like you're playing the three-dimensional chess.
Yeah.
Right. So you have these users who are using it, and then the user of the next level. Yeah.
And they are creating stuff for the next level of users.
Right. Yeah. It's even there are more use cases. It might not be even as straightforward as a B2C case. Right. That's a good one. And I didn't know that you were a customer before you decided to jump on board to this.
Well, not a customer. We were prospecting.
Oh, Okay.
They reached out to me to sell Sigma in my previous role.
Okay.
Yeah, one of my friends who still works at Sigma.
Yeah.
She was like, "You should just come here."
Nice. So
I
you
really love
the product, and then you also understand, oh, it's really important for product folks to be empowered. I totally agree.
I don't want to constantly reach out to the data team to add this new chart that I want. If they expose a raw data model or data set to me, I should be able to do all these things myself. Like Sigma really like 10x's your business output, like from a product standpoint. So that's what really clicked into me. I'm like, everybody knows Excel. Like 2 billion people use Excel. And if I'm able to use Excel, I'm able to use Sigma.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's a really good value prop that you basically made Excel extensible that to be a business intelligence platform that people are able to get acquainted to pretty fast versus you have to learn like a new language or something to put the data out. That's amazing.
And I've used pretty much all the kind of generation 2 BI tools that in the market, all the way from like Chartio, Looker, Tableau, Sisense, and then Sigma is truly like differentiated in that sense.
That's amazing. That's amazing. The next question is also, I'm kind of curious, what is the typical product development cycle in your world, right? So I think I've only been working for B2C companies.
Yeah.
I would imagine as a B2B product leader, the way you interact with customers, the way you do experiment launches, or even you gather customer feedback, and then you do the full implementation, the go-to-market, the strategies will differ quite a bit. I'm curious, like, how do you launch all this, right? Like end-to-end life cycle. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, it definitely follows like a different rhythm compared to B2C. I mean, the fundamentals are still the same. The individual tasks over the big titles are different, I would say.
Yeah.
I think primarily because the customer landscape is very different, and so the stakes are much higher.
That's true. The landscape is right.
And so, like, again, I would say the typical product development lifecycle would be similar. But again, what you do within each of those bullet points is going to be very different. So let's talk about like discovery and like problem definition, right?
Yeah.
We don't have thousands of customers. Well, I guess we hundreds of thousands of users.
Yeah, not like on the million level. Yeah.
We don't have millions of users like Facebook. So again, the discovery is very much from going from the thing that you're trying to build and kind of validating with the existing customers, right? So you have user meetups, you have a very specific list of customers you would invite to that.
Right.
You have advisory boards, right? You have one-on-one discussions. So you validate the idea that you're trying to build and you kind of discover some of the problems around the idea and then make sure that you incorporate that in what you are trying to build.
Okay.
I think the real like art here is to not just solve the surface level problems, because that's what most of the customers will tell you, but to actually understand the pain which is driving this problem, right? Because our customers definitely use the product in more and different ways than we can ever imagine. So they might be asking you for something that might be the result of several other things that they might have built on top of what you have. But if you try to understand the real problem, you would kind of peel the onion and realize.
Yeah, I was going to use that analogy. Yeah, so you have to peel several layers of onion.
Then you understand, okay, well, the real problem is much simpler than what you created here. What if I give you this completely different path to achieve the same thing? That's it. I think that's the art here, where probably also separates like good from great PMs is really understanding what the problem is rather than just looking at like something as a feature request.
Right. Yeah.
I think next, prioritization and planning. And again, I love what Sigma does here. We have a 40-40-20 rule. We have 40% of our time we spend on like innovative things, right?
Okay. New things.
Yeah, new things that we want to build. You don't want to just keep solving customer problems. Like that is obviously a big part of it, but we also want to, as a product manager or product team, you need to think about how I'm going to enable more use cases, how I'm going to increase my TAM. Is there a possibility of having a separate revenue line here? There are more things than just keep building and solving the bugs and product requests that you have. It's more about, okay, how do you extend this beyond, right?
Yeah.
That is, your product should always be looking for product market fit for the next thing that you're trying to build. Because if people reach product market fit on a given product that you build, you get complacent and you don't innovate as fast. So I love that our CEO has kind of almost told us like you have to spend 40% time on doing innovative things. That really helps kind of,
keep pushing forward a bit.
Yeah. Pushing forward.
Yeah.
And that keeps the job fresh, right? Because every year, again, I've been at Sigma for 3 years. Every year, like we've gone into a journey of like solving bigger and larger problems. So it's very empowering. The other 40% is obviously the loyalty. How to make sure that our existing customer base stays happy. We're progressing things. We're not creating like paper cuts for them. And then 20% is mostly around like, research or backlog or things like that.
We're like tech maintenance kind of thing. Okay, I see. Yeah.
But also kind of research for the first 40%, right? You don't want to like on it. So I think that's how we kind of split the prioritization and planning. And then again, during this phase, we also work with a lot of our customers. Again, you don't want to build in vacuum. Otherwise it will be a failed product. Then kind of going into development and experimentation. Again, this is also very different where in B2C, you can easily do A/B testing.
Yeah.
You can easily expose your 10,000 users to a given set of new features. You can't do that here. I think it's again, it has to be much more intentional. Only for the users it makes sense to expose this to. So we go through a process of having like an internal status where we enable it for all of our internal users. Like everyone at Sigma uses Sigma, so we get feedback really easily. Then we have private beta where we have a select group of like development partners that we enable this.
Oh, you have a beta group. That's very helpful. Okay.
And it's different for each feature or each innovation that we are building. And then once we have a solid thumbs up from that group, we move to public beta, and then we go to GA. So like we follow that rollout process pretty rigorously across all parts of product management.
What does if there's a typical rollout process, how long does it take? Is it like 6 months, or it could be like up to a year, or maybe it's much shorter than that?
It depends on the part of the product. At Sigma, we release continuously. Pretty much every day we have new things coming out. These are for smaller things like smaller feature requests or API updates and things like that. But like if you have like a new, let's say we are rolling out like a new UI for the product, it's a pretty big change. So you want to phase those things out across like months.
Okay. Yeah. No, I think that makes sense. So sounds like the advantage of the B2B world is that you do have a dedicated user group you can test with. You can kind of test the water, get some feedback, especially early feedback. And then I would assume the sales team would also funnel all these different feedback when there are like RFP process involved.
We have customer success and customer support team that will give us these candidates that might fit our data progress plans. And then kind of going into go-to-market, you have to enable your like, again, at the level of what Sigma is, you have to make sure that you have the right kind of documentation. You've enabled the sales team so they can talk about the value of the new thing that you just built. You have to make sure you write blogs about like advertising. You have to put it on the website. And again, just like a lot of like go-to-market enablement to make sure that the thing that you build is actually being put in front of your customers rather than you build in vacuum and nobody knows about it. So like talking about the thing that you build is also very important. And enabling the people who are customer facing also becomes super important. And then lastly, it's like just monitoring, like making sure that there's adoption, right? There's actual value being generated either through large number of users ourselves or for our customers from this new thing that you have just launched. So like constant like monitoring. Again, we use Sigma for all of that, obviously. But monitoring of things that you have launched out to your customers and seeing this, if this has been successful or not, is also pretty crucial. Because that helps you decide what's the next thing you're going to work on.
And then I love that you mentioned kind of a customer level of education is also important, right? When you build something, you want to make sure the existing customers, the new prospective customers will know about it. Versus, I think in B2C world, it's more of if we have a new onboarding journey, we can just look at the conversion rate. We don't have to specifically call out, oh, this is a new feature. Or sometimes we do. But most of the time, the education part will come a little bit more natural versus when it's like enterprise new feature, especially if something is like highly requested, and customers are anticipating it, they're paying big bucks for it. So the education plays a big role.
And like for certain large customers, you have to have that white glove service for onboarding where you walk them through the whole thing.
Customers.
High touch customers. You have to make sure that there's less trash, right? Like you don't want a lot of changes hitting the customers all the time, but also you don't want to like not release things. So how do you have that
balance? Right.
I think that's the key.
Yeah. And then I would imagine the success rate of B2B's experimentation probably will be higher than the B2C experiments. Maybe because you already have a bunch of validation. Exactly. Real validation. Yeah.
Exactly. A lot of things that we build, we typically take on development partners, which are our customers or our technology partners, like our SIs, and we work with them. So there's a lot of pre-work done on the validation part. And so there is high likelihood of success in those scenarios, but things could go wrong.
That's true.
Because a lot of time people make mistakes around not understanding the problem correctly. And so you end up building the wrong thing. Even though you might have validation, it might not be the one that makes it succeed.
I see. So how you validate is also important. As you said, the layers of onions, make sure you address the why part, like why it's painful for them versus, they just have one-off feature request.
Exactly. I think always go back to the fundamentals of product management. Just ask the 5 whys.
Sure. I think I read it somewhere that the Airbnb, their experimentation, 92% failed the A/B test. It did not go the way that anticipated. But I would imagine in this case, as long as validation part is done right, then it should be a pretty easy decision to roll out to all customers when it makes sense to them.
Yeah, and I think that's why we have cohorts for private beta and public beta. So you don't want to expose something to a new prospect who is just signing up. You don't want to immediately change their experience. So you have to have a solid rollout process.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So the next question is a bonus question. Since I work at Stitch Fix, I actually got the sweater and the jeans from Stitch Fix. I'm a AutoShip client, so I have a new box from my stylist every other month. It's like a treat to myself. My next question, the bonus question is, what is your favorite clothing brand and why?
Well, the first suit I ever bought was from Express. I think Express is pretty solid. It has casual stuff. It has business casual. It has blazers. So I would say Express is probably my number one favorite brand. A lot of good memories associated with that blazer, interviews.
Right.
So it's I would say Express.
Yeah, Express is a good one. Yeah, I like Express. I think they have both men's clothing line and women. Yeah, kind of. I can think of Ann Taylor is more for women, but it's business casual. They have casual as well. So versatile. They have workwear, casual wear. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. All right. The spicy question, last one is, how has AI changed your workflow as a B2B product leader?
I use AI, I would say, pretty much on a daily basis. It's in different kind of forms.
What are some use cases?
Yeah, I think I use AI as truly as a co-pilot, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I think a lot of times, I think the first use case is editing stuff for me, right? Yes. I have a lot of thoughts and I want to communicate in a way that I want it's in my head, but I don't necessarily always write it that way. So I would write a really long paragraph, and I think if you open my ChatGPT, most of my prompts are edit this for brevity, right? And then it will make it shorter and concise for me, and then I'm I don't like this, and I tweak it a little bit, and then land on the exact message that I want to give out, right? So when you're writing 1-2 line product descriptions about features that you're going into the roadmap, I think it's a pretty good tool to use. I use Slack and Gong like a crazy person. I have a bunch of integrations. Okay. So I have some keywords that I have tagged in Gong. Every time somebody says those words, I get a Slack message with a summary of that call. So I use that Gong summarization feature, which sends it to Slack.
Yeah.
A madman. And I read I lead our embedded analytics product, so anything about embedding, I want to know. And especially, if the call was about a customer that we are about to close, I want to know about all the things that they are thinking about right now, right? You want to stay current, right? There is a roadmap, obviously, and the things we are doing, but you should not think about that as an absolute. You need to keep yourself current, and the way you do it is looking at prospect calls. What are people asking for today?
What they care about right now. Yeah.
So I think that's a great feature for me. And then I record a lot of calls through, if there's no Gong or Zoom on it, I use Otter as well a lot.
Is it other AI?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
For summarization, it's mostly for my personal stuff, not for work. And then I use Sigma AI a lot as well.
Okay.
Again, as a product manager, you always want to know about what's an adoption of a given feature that you've released. And of course, you can create charts and graphs and have everything ready. What if I don't want to do it? I want to just ask a question about how many customers are using version tagging feature that I built.
You can detail to the feature.
Yeah. So if your data is modeled correctly, it'll go and give me the answer about, okay, these many customers are using it. So it makes my life much easier. Or like, oh, how many customers at Sigma have embedding? Or how many, what's our revenue coming from like this quarter? Right?
Yeah,
so like, you can, there's a lot of data that's already available.
Right.
And I don't want to create a full-blown chart for it. So I can just ask a question.
Is that like a conversational interface? So you just ask that question and then it will give you a refine. Oh, okay. So it's even next step, right? So the first step is PM, we might bother data scientists to get that dashboard set up. The next step is that you have the dashboard set up. I have to find the exact right dashboard at the right moment that I want to find the numbers for.
Right.
But what you're saying is Sigma AI goes to the final step, which is I have a question in my head. I don't want to look at the dashboard. I just want to get the answer. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the next phase, of like where things are going. And I mean, we can do it today, but like more extensively. I think the interesting piece is where AI is going overall. I feel like tools like Vercel, when you pair it up with like something like Claude or ChatGPT can make PMs really dangerous, right? You can now start prototyping things.
Right.
You can have prototypes ready in like a couple of hours and you can start putting them in your pitch decks. So I think it's the way that AI is going. If you are interested in like learning technology and you know a little bit of like how things work, it can make you very dangerous.
It could make you go farther than just like a deck where having the initial, like this is a proposal versus we have a prototype.
Yeah, like I've been using Vercel, I've been using Replit.
These
days, and the AI capabilities that they have, they are pretty phenomenal.
I
haven't actually put anything into like real work prototype these recently.
More like a side project. I
mean, I could see the potential of it being pretty solid.
If the full integration is there, I think we definitely makes us like several leaps forward, right? You have a thought and then you could have, I would imagine that may be the future of product review.
Honestly,
you could have, if you could enable like the partner to have even a half-baked product, 50% there. You can see how this interact and adjust it. That'll be interesting.
Sigma is investing a lot on what we're calling data applications. Data applications are basically applications that are built on top of data. And then it has a bunch of workflows that connect to each other. But what if I don't want to build it myself? I can build it, right? Like, so I think that's the next phase of things where we're thinking about on how we can make AI even more useful for our customers.
So is Sigma AI something that your customers also use, or it's internal?
Everybody at Sigma is a Sigma user. So it's for all the users.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that even reduce the necessity to connect with another third party to try the data, but everything is in-house. Okay. No, that's magical. All right. Thank you so much for your time, Zalak. I learned a lot today.
Of course. Thank you.